What up? It's at St. Laurent 57, sober, celibate, and saved. And right now, I got a few minutes before I start this other interview or whatever. But I have interesting story to tell. So, for one, I just got with my DV class, got done with my DV class, and it was great as always. And I took an Uber right to class, whatever, fine. And then I was waiting for my Uber to come pick me back up. And, I see that the driver is like not where I'm at. And so I was like a little bit concerned. Anyways, and then it said it was going to be like an orange car with this license plate. Well, I get a phone call from the Uber driver. They're like, hey, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I'm over here. And they mentioned that the car is not orange, it's white. Red flag. And then I look at the license plate, and he's like, "Oh, I think I saw you when I drove in." I'm like, "Okay." So then I look at the license plate. It's not the license plate. And the first thing that I always think of is I have a sister who, like a biological sister, who was like going out of state for like job trainings, whatever, right? And she brought it to my attention about how like when she takes Ubers, about to make sure like the driver matches this and that license plate because people are getting whatever, right? And she's always been like the very pretty one who like all the weirdos always like go to, right? And so it just stuck with me like ever since she told me that story when she was traveling for work. Like I never forgot it. And so anyways, and so then I was like, oh, right. And the guy was like, cool, look like, whatever. Um, I didn't feel any type of way, but I was like, that's not good. Like, your car should have the right color, like whatever. But honestly, it was kind of interesting. Um, like God works in funny ways, right? And so he picked me up. He's like, "Oh, you getting off of work?" And I was like, "No, like, I'm, taking this women empowerment class, whatever, right? Because it's, you know, um, it's not like it's a safe haven, it's there have been classes there too, but whatever. I was trying to be discreet, not because I care. I would tell my whole story. I don't give a shit. Like I'm in a domestic violence class, you know. But I was saying, I'm going to this class, it's a women's empowerment class, and I'm hoping to be a facilitator one day, whatever. But it's what's crazy is when I first went to sign up for these classes, right next to it is something called behind or outside the walls ministry. And it's crazy because when I was in county jail at RCCC, we had some ladies who would come and do the Bible study, and they were from the one I like to go to. There was a couple of different groups of ladies from different ministries, but these ladies were from TIP Pentecost or TIP Church, which is this is Pentecost, right? And Tamara Bennett's their pastor. She's really amazing. She's very powerful, right? And I actually went to that church once or twice after I'd gotten out of jail. But anyways, those ladies were really, they meant a lot to me. But anyway, but when we fill out the paper so they could keep in touch with us, like after, our time there or whatever, if we wanted to go, they have resources, right? As most churches do, they have resources for their community, right? And so then he mentioned that place, the outside, whatever. And I figured that starts to come two and two. But it's crazy how when I first went to go sign up for these DV classes, right, that it would be right next to the outside the walls ministry, right, which is crazy, like small world, right. And anyway, so I'm in the car and he mentions about, he's like, yeah, he's like, well, he's like, my daughter works over, my daughter's a part of this, um, this group, this nonprofit, and it's called BAYCC. Um, don't know what it stands for, but apparently, and she's a minor. She's doing great things, but he was telling me that it's essentially like a nonprofit program to kind of help people understand like the adversity that children face and to understand like the communities they come from and their different backgrounds and how to maybe work with them better and how to understand them and things like this, right? And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And I guess Saturday on YouTube. She's going to be in a documentary, and it's coming out, like he said, on YouTube. But the nonprofit is called BAYCC, and you can look it up on YouTube. I know I'm definitely going to watch it, and I'm going to keep sharing this information because I just felt like I was like, wow, that's really crazy. Because at first I was like, should I call like the company and be like, you know what, you guys are gonna have to send me somebody else because like this is kind of like a Uber Lyft red flag, right? Like I don't think I should be getting in the car where this, that, right? But actually, it was interesting, and it just made me think of like sometimes I don't know. It just was very interesting. It had, and then the gentleman had mentioned that he had gotten an interview that day, and and I said, well, I hope that everything works out, blah blah. But the thing is, too, is he's a job coach because I was telling him, I was like, that's crazy. He's like, I just had an interview this morning and I'm looking for work right now. And, I told him what my barriers were. And I said, I'm actually going to do an interview tonight. Like when I get back, home, whatever, I have another Zoom interview. And he was telling me how he was like, oh, you should try A, B, C, and D. And he's, it's crazy because, we just were talking about so much stuff. It was a really good conversation, but I had told him that I was like, wow, you must be really proud of her. And he's like, well, she's 16. Things change when you're 18, 19. I was like, yep, it does, because there's a point in time when you're a teen and you're so pumped, right? And all this stuff, and you're doing all these amazing things. You want to make a change, and then sometimes something happens, like 18, 19, and off. You know what I'm saying? Um, but yeah, it was a really good conversation. It was just interesting. But he was telling me that he was a job coach or whatever, and so he's this is more than his field. Like he knows where to look and all these different kinds of things, and it's just very interesting because he had a familiar demeanor about him where I thought maybe he was like local, maybe from Stockton or something, but he's from actually Seattle and his wife is from Alabama. So it was a very interesting conversation, and I got a lot out of it, and so I'm super grateful. um, but what it's just funny how God kind of puts things in. I mean, you can look at it in a different way, but I mean, anything that comes into my life at this point is God, because He's the only one. I mean, He's not the only one. I have a tremendous amount of support, but He's the only one who can give me the correct guidance in this. I mean, in general, but this is the guidance I have to follow, not of my own. And He has the people who are around me now are the people who are supported. Who the people who are in my life now are the people who are healthy and will support me in a healthy way. Whereas before, the people who were around for quote unquote support are not healthy and not good, and that's why they're no longer here. And for the better, right? And I probably was no good for them. Sometimes people just don't mesh, whether you're blood or you're not blood. Sometimes people just aren't meant to be in each other's lives. So like I said, I just feel like now it's God. Now these things are like, it just like was miraculous. I'm like, how are all these coincidences in one moment where I was like, in a moment where I was like, probably shouldn't go in this car. But, so anyways, the point is, these are there's lots of nonprofits that do lots of amazing things, and I didn't realize how in my lifetime I've had so many different nonprofits around me, and the fact that I'm staying in a program, it's a nonprofit, and all the amazing things that it does. Uh, so yeah, you should check it out. It's supposed to come out on Saturday on YouTube. If you're curious, and just, I mean, it's an interesting documentary talking about children who face adversities, and the things that people have a hard time understanding in our youth. It's very important to try to reach our youth as young as possible, to help them, to help empower them, and to help them be inspired, and help motivate them through their life's adversities, the things that they were born into, the things that they have found their ways around, trying to find belonging or identity, or maybe they are hanging out with kids or older people that are influencing them negatively. But all these things prevent them from reaching their potential and prevent them from knowing their worth. And so I just found that that was really amazing, and I was very blessed to be able to sit and have this conversation with this man and learn about this. So YouTube, Saturday, don't know what time, but the nonprofit is BAYCC. So check it out. But I got 10 minutes to this interview, and I'm going to fill out a couple more applications while waiting. So at St. 157, be safe and be kind.